This Sun-Gazette video coverage is proudly sponsored by Woodlands Bank.
Sun-Gazette welcomes you today to talk about work zone safety. National Work Zone Awareness Week is April 15th through the 19th, and reminding motorists to remain cautious and drive through the posted speed limits through work zones. And what would you like to share with us on how we can keep highway workers, PennDot workers safe?
Right. So it's really important that we also note that not only are we trying to keep our roadway workers safe, but we're also trying to keep the motoring public safe, because most oftentimes it is the motoring public that gets injured in a work zone crash or something like that. So some tips for work zone safety is, of course, we want you to lower your speed, obey those posted speed limits. You want to turn on your headlights, that way other vehicles and the workers can see you better. Avoid distractions. Make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. So oftentimes our roadway workers tell me that what they see is a lot of people using their phones and such when they're driving through those work zones, which is really scary. And I want to remind everybody that using a Bluetooth, talking hands-free is still a distraction, because your mind is focused on the conversation and not on driving. And then you want to increase your following distance, make sure you're kind of expecting the unexpected. And your best defense against any crash whatsoever, work zone or other, is by wearing a seatbelt.
What are some of the most common offenses that PennDot sees in work zones?
Yeah, besides the distraction, what we see a lot is people speeding. They get impatient, they might have to slow down, they might get stuck in traffic because of the work zone, so then they get aggressive and impatient, and so they speed through there pretty recklessly, which is putting, of course, other people in danger as well. So we really need to practice patience. We know it's construction season in Pennsylvania. More and more as the weather warms up, you're seeing even more construction zones popping up, and so just make sure that you're giving yourself a little bit of extra time to get where you're going, and just practice some patience, because it really is someone's mother or brother or uncle out there along the roadway.
Can you talk a little bit about Work Zone Speed Safety Camera Program?
Yeah, so that is a new law that was signed into law last year, but before that we had a 5-year pilot program. And what that does is there are actually cameras out on certain construction zones, and they will record people who are going over 11 miles per hour. So if you are going, say the speed limit for the construction zone is 45 and you're going 56 or over, it's going to take a picture of your license plate. And then for your first offense, you're actually going to get a warning. Now that warning goes to the owner, the registered owner of that vehicle. And because we don't know who is driving it, there's no points associated with that. And then you have a 15-day warning period. That's so that that warning can get mailed to you and you receive it and you're aware that you've been warned. After that 15-day warning period, it's kind of fair game, right? If you're speeding through that work zone 11 miles per hour or more, you're going to get a second offense. It's actually going to give you a $75 fine. And then the third and subsequent offenses are going to be $150. Now, you can get an offense every single day. If you're going through the same construction zone on your way to work, commuting Monday through Friday, and you're speeding through there that often, you can actually get a ticket every day, or even 2 a day if you're going to and from through the same work zone.
And if somebody is pulled over by the state police, are the fines different in work zones than they can be in non-work zones? Right.
So separate from the speed zone work camera, if you are actually pulled over for speeding in a work zone from a police officer, then yes, your fines are doubled, and there's points associated with that as well, because we really are trying to keep those work zones safe for our workers.
Tell me about the PennDot Workers Memorial we see every year. It's going to be somewhere local this year?
Yeah, so the PennDot Workers Memorial actually represents the 90 lives that were lost in the line of duty working for PennDot since it became PennDot in 1970. And we travel around the state with that. It goes up oftentimes at like welcome centers and things like that, so people can view it and get a feel for how big of a problem it is and how many lives have been affected. So locally this year in Lycoming County, we're actually going to have it up at the Lycoming County Fair in July.
And what haven't I asked you that you want people to know to keep everybody safe?
Right. I want people to realize that, you know, the big projects that you know are out there, say like Route 220 bridge project that you pass through a lot and you know it's there, you know, we're all aware of those, but sometimes work zones pop up when you're least expecting them, right? So it might be a moving operation where they're out doing some line painting or some mowing, some brush clearing. It could be an emergency situation where it had heavy rains like we are having today, and they have to go out and clear the inlets. So you don't expect them to be there. You weren't warned ahead of time they're going to be there, but you might come upon a work zone. So please just always be paying attention to your surroundings. It really is to protect you as well. I did want to also remind people of the move over law, because it does include PennDot workers as well. So if you do come upon those little roadside areas where they're cleaning something out of a brush ditch or something like that, the law does state that you must either move over to a lane if it's clear, another lane, or if there's not a lane clear, then you must slow down 20 miles below the speed limit. So that applies to fire trucks and police vehicles and, towing trucks and utility workers, but it also applies to PennDot.
And I know last time we were here, we talked about the 511 PA. Will that also show us some of the work zones if people want to avoid that route?
Yes, it certainly does. 511 PA is a free app where you can go to the website and you can actually see travel conditions. You can actually click on construction projects and it'll show you all the construction projects, help you plan a way around that if you want to avoid that, or make you aware of them to give yourself extra time.
I did see here, interesting enough, talking about how fines are doubled, or you could lose your license for 15 days, that it's not just injuring or a worker, and that it could also be hitting another driver.
Right, and that's so often what happens. People are traveling too fast for conditions, and they're coming through that work zone, and all of a sudden they're not merging properly, and they actually hit another driver, or they hit the crash truck, or they hit the Jersey barriers, things like that are put up to protect our workers, and that's when they're getting those injuries. But yes, it's not just about hitting a roadside worker. It's really fines for doing dangerous behaviors, no matter what's happening. So as I mentioned before, April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and we want to make sure that people are aware all year round that distractions are dangerous. Anything that takes your hands off the wheel, your eyes off the road, or your mind off the task of driving is a distraction. So especially for our younger drivers, passengers are a big distraction. That's why we have the graduated driver's license law that does limit how many passengers a young driver can have. But everything from eating to drinking, adjusting the music, adjusting the heat, putting on makeup, we see that sometimes. I've heard reports of somebody shaving with an electric shaver in the car. All of those things are distractions. So please make sure that you are paying attention to what you're doing. You only get this one life, and we need to protect that. So that's what I wanted to say. And then also on April 17th, which is a Wednesday, is Go Orange Day. That is a day that everybody can wear orange to highlight work zone safety and in honor of our roadside workers who have been killed, and also to remind everybody to be safe now to protect the workers that we have.
I know you said you're visiting some high schools and universities. Do you talk to young new drivers about distracted driving?
Absolutely. We talk about distracted driving a lot. We actually have a distracted driving simulator that we go out and use, and they can actually on the simulator drive while they're texting, and they can see just how dangerous that is and how they're not paying attention to what's happening around them. They get like little violations about running a stop sign or weaving, that sort of thing. A lot of times we point out that they're going 3 miles per hour on a roadway because they slowed down to text and they don't even aware that they're doing that. So we really do hit that message hard with them, and we also hit the work zone safety message with them. We want to make sure that they're out there and aware, get them young, make them think about those work zone safety aspects now while they're out there.
Are they surprised when they use the simulator?
Absolutely, yeah. They think they're, especially our teens, they think they're great at texting, and they are. They're a much better texter than I am, but they're still inexperienced at driving, and they need to understand the relationship with that. So even somebody who is an experienced driver and an experienced texter, those two don't go hand in hand. You have to do them separately.
Okay. Well, as always, I thank you for coming to see us, and if you ever have any more topics down the road, feel free to stop in.
Yep, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.